Today, we're going to go out and fish with Swimbaits. That's right, Swimbaits. Been around for a long time. We used to use sassy shads, and then the striper fishermen had some, and we used them for then. And then they went through this resurgence out in California. The big Swimbaits went real, but the little guys, the 3.8, that is the one. If you're going to only have one, get the 3.8. Get a 1/4 ounce jig head. You can get white chartreuse, get unpainted, paint them yourself. You can do whatever you want, but get these, throw them parallel to cover, around cover, over cover, near humps, near drop-offs, near ledges. Use it in clear water, fairly clear water. But when you have cloudy skies and you got chop on the water and your water's still fairly clear, tie one of these on, crank it real slow, and let's see what happens. You can just slowly bring these things in, and they look so natural that you don't have to do a whole lot. You could, throw some snaps into it and pauses, hesitation. I do like a slow retrieve. I think that really just gets them to take a look at it. You could pause it every once in a while, and you do that too, but I like throwing a snap in there once in a while. Still a little bit of grass left on this bank, and it might be enough to hold some fish. So I'm trying to stay right on top of that grass. Can control the depth of this thing somewhat by lowering the rod, slowing the retrieve, and it'll go a little bit deeper. It depends where you want to be in the strike zone, where you think the fish are, or the cover zone. Where you have to keep the bait so that it stays just ticking the top of the cover. This one does not slice through cover or grass or wood really that well. It's more of an open water presentation or close to cover. There's one. And that was close to that cover. Okie dokie. We like these swim baits. And I try to come up with a pattern that, this is my version of baby bass. It's got some chartreuse in it. Has some kind of baby bass colors to it. A little bit of red flake, a little bit of green flake. Just a nice slow retrieve, kind of coming off this edge, this grass edge. Got a pretty steep drop here, so they could be on that. There's a little bit of rock that comes out about maybe 10 feet, and I'm trying just to parallel that. Not trying to cast into that rock. Trying to get them to shoot out from that rock. Once I get out of that strike zone, I kind of burn it back to the boat. I like that cast right there. It's right on a point and something just bumped it and didn't quite get it. Let's see if he'll come back and get it. I'm going to throw back over there real quick before I get on top of it. See, that's what it did. It boogered up my bait when he hit it. That's all right. We'll get you this cast. Sometimes if they're not hitting a particular bait, a particular color, you can modify or accent or accentuate a pattern just with dye markers. And I use them a lot, especially orange. I like the orange ones. Black, put a black dot on the side of the bait. That usually helps a little bit. They've got blue and red, but the two I use the most are black and orange. Black for that dot, maybe to put a couple other little speckles on there just for contrast. And the orange I like to put on the belly, because I really think that when they're looking up and they see an orange belly, that looks like something familiar. And that gets their attention. I think they can see that. Some guys add red around the gills or maybe put red eyes on them, but those are the ones that I use. My red dye marker, my blue dye marker don't get much of a workout. There's one. Good cast. Get a little fishy there. I threw that one underneath that cedar tree, almost on the bank. There he goes. He got off. He wasn't very big. So we'll put another one up there real close to the bank. See if there's another one up there. I think that one bit it in self-defense. He was so small, he didn't know what he'd done. What did I do? I went after something too big. If you're going to cast right-handed with a right-hand crank bait caster, you got to be pretty quick. And guys that do it all the time, they are pretty quick in transferring that rod to your left hand so that you can retrieve it. I will cast right-handed going this way and left-handed going the other way. I'm not sure which one I prefer, really. The transfer, if they're hitting as soon as it hits the water, a lot of times there's not much you can do. I mean, if it's instant, it's bang, bang. So you just have to get, a little bit better at it and thing down. I've set the hook sometimes without even clicking the bail. I've had my thumb on the spool get a bite. I set the hook by keeping my thumb on the spool. But when I have it left-handed, I can get it in there too, and and that bail is already, or spool is already closed and locked and ready to go. But going this way, I prefer to throw it right-handed, but occasionally I'll throw a left-handed one in there. So all you right-handed people out there, learn to do something with your left hand, and casting is a good thing to learn. And I really recommend, if you're starting out and haven't developed any bad habits, get a left-hand crank. Get a left-hand crank if you're right-handed. And then you don't have to worry about that. Which hand is swapping over. You just cast right-handed and take that left hand, turn the handle, and you're ready to go. It depends on the angle I'm trying to hit, too. Like this next cast, I'm going to cast left-handed because I want to kind of hit that point right there. And I could have done that right-handed, but I just really wanted to approach it from the left side and make it go. It's kind of like a little bit of a point. And that's basically how I learned, or why I learned to use my to cast with either hand, because there were angles I'd want to hit, and I want my bait. It's kind of like a golfer wanting a fade or a slice, or sometimes you want casts that kind of wrap around, and you can't wrap it around when you're with the wrong hand. So there's one, like where he should have been, next to those two little stumps there. Yeah, that's the kind of fish we like right there. Oh yeah, look at that. That's a nice fish. And when they get it, they choke it in. I mean, it's not a little tap, and I always look in their mouth, see if I can see what they've been eating. Can't see anything. Let this guy go. Good job, fishy. Sometimes I put a little super glue on these things, which I might have to do with this guy because he's starting to slide a little bit. I prefer to fish these things with an open hook. Increases your chance of getting a hook in these fish because it's an open hook. And it also it's easier to kind of keep it horizontal. Now, I will tell you that the hooks, the weedless hooks, or the hooks that you kind of make them Texas rig sort of, they have a weight in the belly. It's a whole different action. That weight makes this bait kind of swing side to side. So it kind of rolls on the belly, and that is pretty cool. And you can crank that one through trees and grass and pretty much anything else. The other way to hook it up is with a 60-degree bend in the hook eye. That tends to come through cover pretty well because it's kind of lifting it up over the cover when you're the angle that you have, rather than it being a 90-degree at 60, and it comes over cover pretty good. But still, I don't throw these things very close to cover. Nice thing being able to make your own baits is there's not another bait out there that looks like this. I've tried white, off-white, yellowish white. Doesn't seem to work as good. I don't know why. I have no idea. The bait fish here in this lake are predominantly bluegill. So maybe it's the chartreuse in the green or baby bass. They do eat their own here. Baby bass are a forage fish for the bass in this lake. So this color seems to work well. I do pretty well with green pumpkin. I do pretty well with watermelon. And I started like making a whole bunch of different colors and patterns, and I'll go over those that seem to work pretty well. But the nice thing about making your own baits is you can experiment, play around, you can make 2 or 3 if you like them. Hold on to that one and try to copy it. The worst thing that could happen is like you get one that they're biting and you don't remember what the color was, and all of a sudden that fish rips it off, or you break it off and you don't have that color anymore and you don't know what it was. So either take a picture of it or hold on to that bait. Take it off and say, I want to make one just like this. And then you got to mix and match your colors in your pots to make it work real well for you. I think the reason these baits work so well, oh yeah, you have the tail wiggling back and forth, but these ribs on here, the ribs kind of pull water too, and as this thing's going back and forth, it creates more vibration, and that's what it's all about. It's visual and vibration. They can feel it, they can see it, they can zone in on it. All right, let's see. We're coming across that piece of wood. I like the idea that if this is going to work around wood today, we'll throw it around more wood. Generally, I throw it over grass, or throw it close to where I think the fish might be holding. Not necessarily something that I would throw a jig on, very, very specific spot, but a general area vicinity. And these are more like what we call, instead of cover, it's structure. So I'm looking at drop-offs and edges and ditches and depth changes, that kind of thing, to see if I can find fish on those. And I will throw it, through standing timber or laydowns. I'll throw it, close. I mean, it's not going to get snagged every time, but like there's a bunch of wood in here. We'll see if we can slowly wind this thing through, and if you get stuck, just don't set the hook on it. Like our boat right now is in 18 feet of water, and I'm casting to about 3, and coming past this wood again with cloudy skies, with chop on the water and standing timber, fish are not usually all the way on the bottom. The fish that live in that tree will come up a little bit more. So this is a pretty good thing to use. I found these baits work pretty much under every condition as long as the water's not super muddy. If it's stained, it's okay. You just go a little shallower. Fish it shallower if the water's stained. If the water's clear, you can fish deeper water. But I've found that, gosh, cloudy skies, sunny skies, it doesn't seem to matter with fish on this thing. They're going to eat it or not. Obviously, if it's really, really sunny, you got to be closer to the cover. That's one doggone thing, that's for sure. But day like today, I can be throwing it close to cover, not in it, but just close to it. And paralleling shorelines, there's one paralleled that shore. And boy, I'm glad I made a few of this color. But again, I'm choking it down. See where this fish has it? I mean, he's got it in there. I mean, not too deep where I can't get the hook out, but you know, he's got it in there. Nice fish. Hi, bye, Captain Steve. And that's what, again, we call it cover, we call it structure. Right now, I'm fishing structure. I am throwing it parallel to a bank, not for any other reason other than there's a drop-off there. And I want to keep this bait close to that drop-off. And they could come from underneath it. They could come from all the way at the bank. I figure I got about a 10 to 15 foot range on this thing. As long as I'm within 10, 15 feet of the bank, I think I'm okay. I'm getting a lot closer than that. I'm getting probably about 6 feet from the bank. But it is structure fishing. And as I'm moving around the lake, I'm looking for casts that will put me in situations where I can have fish that are coming from an ambush spot or from a spot where they're just up feeding. You know, you got cloudy skies, the fish are going to be up closer to the bank feeding anyway. And the thing that you have to remember is after you catch a fish, slow down. What happens is your adrenaline gets going and you tend to go a little bit faster. You go like, oh, what speed was I using? Well, just remember, start slow, slow down from slow, and if you not get any bites, then you can speed up. It's easy to speed up. It's hard to slow back down. And you know, a lot of guys that are winding, you know, they get excited and now their adrenaline's going and they'll start winding real fast again, and they're going to miss out on a lot of bites because they've forgotten the speed that they were using. Okay, fishies, come on, fishy, I'll let you go. Yeah, nice gentle cast right up there, 6 to 10 feet away from that bank. If I see something that I want to get a little bit closer to, I'll make I'll adjust my cast. One followed it in that time. I don't like when I have fish follow in. It could be two things. Usually, could be your color. And I hate for it to be that, because if it's color, then what is the right color? But it could also be speed. And usually, it means you're going too slow. And they're getting too good a look at it. So they just follow it in. Instead of attacking it, they'll follow it. Now, I expect to get a bite along there. I like this bank. It's starting to come up to a point. It's got a lot of good cover to it. It's got some grass I can see. It's got a couple little trees that extend out into the water. So I'm going to work this spot just a little bit more than I have other spots as we've gone down this bank. Try a couple more casts in here. The wind's at my back, so that kind of makes it hard for me to sneak up on these fish. It's just going to drive me into this spot. Okay, well, nobody in that corner. Oh, I wish I could have had that one. That guy really ripped this thing down. He ripped it down. But again, he might come back and get this. Let's see. Sometimes that's small fish that just grab the end, because you've seen what the bigger ones have done. They're inhaling it. They're coming up behind it and just sucking it in. Which brings us to the rod. This rod's a little bit heavier than what I usually go with. I usually go with G. Loomis used to make spinnerbait rods, and I go with their spinnerbait rods. It's soft enough to let the fish inhale it, but it loads quickly. And by loading quickly, I mean that fish pulls, all of a sudden it bends, and then it stops bending, and then you can set the hook. This rod's a little bit stiffer. Now, if I was losing, here's one right away. If I was losing a bunch of fish because they were coming up and just sort of grabbing the end of it and they just short striking it, well, I would assume that's because the rod wasn't allowing them to suck that bait in. And in that case, you just go to a softer rod, or you go to softer line. Okay, you could go to a monofilament, has a little more stretch to it. I like fishing with fluorocarbon. I use gamma torque braid sometimes with a leader, but most of the time it's just straight gamma fluorocarbon edge. I'll throw that straight, and 12-pound test is what I like to use. I find that 12-pound test gives me still the casting distance, but also it helps keep the bait from sinking too much. It has a little more resistance, and if I'm having a problem with that, then I can always downsize my line and end up with 10-pound test or even 8-pound test. And if I do that, then usually there's less resistance, so when the fish sucks the bait in, they're not sucking in the line. Because you do make some fairly long casts with these things, and when you do, that's a lot of line in the water. And when they go to suck that in, if it's 14 or 16-pound test, it's like rope. And then you would need a really soft rod. Now this shoreline here is a little bit different. I'm in a shallower area. I'm only in 6 to 10 feet of water, and I'm about 50 feet from the bank. So we got a little bit of a flat here. And because of that, I'm going to slow down a little bit and cast a little bit more ahead of the boat, make longer casts, and see if we can cover this whole flat. That's the only bad part. When you got that wind at your back and you're trying to cover water, find out where your fish are, the problem you're going to have, it's grass there. The problem you're going to have is you catch a fish and all of a sudden you've gotten blown past where that fish was. So if you have your boat positioned into the wind, you can sit there and hit that spot over and over and over again. I'm not so concerned with that today because I think the fish are out. They're moving. This is the time of year when they do chase bait and they are moving around. So I'm just going to move around and come into the creeks, go into backs of creeks, go into small bays. But paralleling the bank is a good thing. If you find any offshore flats, those are good to fish. If there's any grass remnants, some reason for the fish still to be hanging there. But basically, your fish in the fall are going to be leaving the main lake and start going to their wintering areas, wherever that may be. Could be just steep. Usually it's steep drops out of the current, if there's any current in the lake. So steep drops out of the current. They like steep drops because they don't have to change they don't have to go very far to change their depth. And they want to change depth because water temperature is different at every depth. And water temperature that's different at every depth will have bait fish in it if it's warm, slightly warmer. So the bass still eat in colder water wintertime, but they don't eat as often, but they still eat. And you just got to find where the bait fish are located. Now I'm about 5 feet from the tip of that downed tree. See if anybody's in that tree wanting to come out and play. Next cast will go along the left side of this tree. A little bit closer. And the next cast will parallel that tree. So I've hit several different angles and given that fish a chance to come out and get this bait. I've always made baits. Started doing it back in the late 80s by accident. And then I discovered Lurecraft. They had molds. They had plastic. I was remelting old plastics. I still do that to a certain extent. Got dyes and glitters and you know, all kinds of supplies from those folks. And then they, I think the guy's name was Dave, and he sold it to Kim Straley and her husband. And Kim's a good friend of mine, and she has really got the leading edge, the cutting edge stuff. She's got the best aluminum molds. They're precision molds. I mean, every time you make a bait, it comes out perfect. She's got hand pour molds, and those are really, really good. She's got just about every bait that you can think of. She's got a mold for it. And she's very helpful, and her whole staff is. You can pretty much get anything you want to make your own baits. If you want to add eyes to it, you can do that. You want different colored glitter, you can get that. See, now I'm just making long casts to cover water. But we'll try to, there is a little teeny little bit of grass. I'm starting to see it on the live scope. And there was a fish there too. Little guy. He just kind of tapped it. There he goes. All right, little guy, come on up here. You see the bigger fish inhaled it. Little guys are just like tap, tap, tap. They can't quite get it in their mouths. But that's fun. Fun catching those. Boy, I'm gonna have to hide this color after a while. People are going to be out there making their own baits, but you got to make them. You got to make them. And do it with good ventilation. Get some good ventilation and where everyone's used to wearing masks. Get yourself one of them, what do they call them? N80, whatever it is. A little bit of grass over there. I like that. Now, this is dead grass. I mean, it's dying grass, but it'll still hold fish because it's going to act as cover for the bait fish. And it's just a little bit harder to fish, and they will leave it after a while because they don't like the decaying part of it. But there'll be bait fish around, and that's, hey, fat boys don't sit far from the buffet. I can kind of see that grass edge over there now. Yeah, we'll get it over there. Since this bait doesn't thump, you have to really pay attention to it when it gets grass on it, because it's hard to tell that it has grass. You got to kind of weigh it. There went one. Let's see, is he going to finish eating? I think this guy must have been using a knife and a fork, maybe even chopsticks. He didn't get that one very good. And it probably picked up a piece of grass, and he goes, "No, I don't like salad with my sushi." Now, if it was there's chop here, and there was another one. There's chop here and cloud cover, so I could fish this shallow in clear water. I mean, this thing's in 2 feet of water right now. It's only about 2 to 3 right here. But if you have sunshine, you better be fishing a little bit deeper, because these fish will get real spooky on you fast. And I'm having to keep the rod tip up pretty high to keep this thing off the bottom. I think what I might do is try a different color just to learn, to see if the different color will work out here under these conditions. I think a lot of guys get hung up on that. They use a color and it works and works, and they go, oh yeah, I caught 50 fish on this one color. Well, did you try any other colors? Because you might have caught 50 fish on a different color. So you got to kind of give yourself a range of baits. That guy got it. Oh, he got off. You got to give yourself a range of baits, so that when you get out and start fishing, if one's not working, you got to have confidence in another. And on days like today, I could be throwing any color you want, except white. I just can't catch them with white. But try different colors. Get confident in a whole bunch of different colors. And if they don't hit your number 1, go to your number 2 and number 3 and number 4. But if you don't have a number 2, number 3, number 4, you're going to be casting and you're not going to feel like you're really fishing. Because there's nothing out here to hold these fish. I see fish all over on my live scope. They're just bouncing around, swimming around. There's one right there. What is this? That is not a largemouth bass. That is a trout. Oh no, I caught a trout. There's nobody here to help me take the hook out. Oh well, let's see if I can do this. All right, we got a good grip on him. We got, the hook is out of him, but that's a pretty fish. Not bad, huh? A lot of people go, you threw that back, why did you eat it? You know, I don't like fish. I don't eat fish. When I go to a restaurant, they try to talk you into fish. We got a fish special tonight. Everything's always special. And there's nothing special about fish as far as I'm concerned. I don't like it. I don't mind saltwater fish. I don't mind walleye. And, you know, if I go somewhere and they specialize in a fish, I'll eat it. I went to Minnesota to do some ice fishing, and they said, you got to try the walleye. And I'm like, all right, I tried it, and it was great. I would do it again. So top of my list. You go to the Caribbean, you know, and you go mahi. They repeat everything there. I don't know why, but I'd order that, and that was pretty good. I enjoyed that fish. Flounder, rockfish, catfish. Go to Alabama and have catfish. You know, it's wonderful. But trout. Never had a trout that I liked. Too many bones. I don't like bones. I like the fish, but no bones. And I should be eating a jellyfish, I think. That's why I like flounder. You got this one bone, you just pulled out that one bone and they're done. You just like, it kind of like unzips. And you just pull it right out. You're ready to go. I see some scattered wood over here. It's kind of vertical, the stuff that's underwater. The stuff that's above water, I'll throw at that too. But I'd rather throw at stuff that I can see that's underwater, because it doesn't get fished as much as the stuff that's above water. Also, when I'm on a flat, I said before that once I'm out of the strike zone, I reel it in really fast and then make another cast. When I'm on a flat with cloudy skies, I will fish it closer to the boat. The strike zone becomes bigger to me because it's all one big area, and I want to keep the bait in the water. I mean, there could be a fish 5 feet from the boat, so I'm fishing it closer to all the way back to the boat. About 5 feet I stop. Let it sink a little bit, retrieve it real slow past this big old stump.